Peace, Israel. We are now going to call this meeting to order. I ask that the brothers and sisters please take your seats. Typically, we open our meetings with our Moorish customs, and we will have the brothers from the different fellowships open the meetings according to their laws, customs, and usages. For those that are participating with the Moorish American prayer, we ask that the brothers or sisters please face the east, and those who are not participating, please sit or stand in silent benediction. Those participating, please face the east, feet on a 45-degree angle, 5 fingers on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of the universe, the Father of love, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night, and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Ameen. I ask that those that participate please remain standing, and please place your phones on vibrate if you have not already done so. The Holy Quran, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from the sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father God Allah. I will now read the Moorish Science Temple of America Divine Constitution and Bylaws, which is our sacred law. Just 1 second. Sheikh Sadiq, you got the additional? Please excuse us. Brothers on the Prophet. The Moorish Science Temple of America Divine Constitution and Bylaws, Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be opened and closed properly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. We are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the Prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must properly attend their meeting and send their All members must properly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children, look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Additional laws, Act 1. Grand Sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali before acting upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause members to sacrifice finance, etc. That will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc. by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their adet meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, they shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go in your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3, it is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance the aid and save the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4, all members, while making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag, or speak radical against the church, or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5, all members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must conform himself to the questionnaire. And let every member exercise these 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. All right, you may be seated, and we will have the brothers from the various congregations to lead in prayer and open. Thank you.
Rabbi Baruch,
Eternal our God and God of our Father, we bless and thank you for the opportunity to meet with our family and brotherhood and love and peace and harmony. So we bless and thank your name for allowing us to be able to stand as men and women, one with another, to recognize the truth that you set forth in the earth, that we must stand together as a people in order to complete the job that you sent for us to do. We pray that you would be with the minds of those who are conducting this meeting, and that all of the things that would come forth from here would be for thy name's honor and glory, for the uplifting of this people. We ask that you would bless each and every home we may have represented, and that you would do so that thy name, end of it all, would get glory and the praise that it so richly deserves. We bless and thank thy name now and forevermore. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yaka. 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 Seven.
Easy. Now leave Shakabo, Babakasha. Bow your heads and humble your spirits. Alerka, Yahweh, Nafshi Yasa, Elohai, Mekabata, Al Elosham, Yamus, Vayva. Kumar Yahweh, Beafutsu Oivecha, Beamusuni Senecha Mipenecha. Kumar Yahweh, Beafutsu Oivecha, Beamusuni Senecha Mipenecha. Kumar Yahweh, Beafutsu Oivecha, Beamusuni Senecha Mipenecha. Hallelujah. 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 Yo. 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 My beloved brother, Mr. David, Barak, Barak. And do you have to choose for anything like this? Elder Barak. If you would like to say a prayer,
Yeah, Dr. Shah, please.
Shuba, I was going to allow him to. And at this moment, I'm going to stand for a second and share. Joseph, anyone that's too loud, especially after the show. Shalom, shalom. Shalom. Kodem kol kol hakavol leyor hakodesh Yisrael ve'avdo hanoshi benami hamashiach l'kol nasakav sarav atarav l'kol chasadav elo shekrovim ve'elo shekrokim ani bivrek okem ve'shalom. I greet everyone here in perfect peace. perfect peace. The reason for this meeting is really a leadership meeting. And the purpose for it is because at this juncture, 2019 is approaching. For many of us, the majority of us, that means it is time for the Exodus. And so at this table that we're setting, and this is the first meeting, and I want everybody to be clear, one thing that I've learned, whether it's business, whether it's dealing with Israel, whether it's working with our people, whether it is relationships, this is what success looks like. Success never starts off filled with people. Success always starts with a small number. It never starts with masses. And that's why I know this is a great beginning, because more people are here than I expected to see. So with that, I want to share a little bit of my background first of all, and the background of actually the reason we're here today. The first thing that I want to share with you is my background. I have learned I was an Israelite approximately 25 years ago. At that juncture, I am from or born in Cincinnati, Ohio, under Moreh Elisha Israel, was my teacher. From that phase, I have, in the last 10 years, I have been under the instruction, tutelage of the Kingdom of Yor. I watched Yor walk me through the process of being a law keeper and understanding the law to moving to the process of a spiritual being keeping the law. And in the process, I was blessed to land or go to and put my feet in the land of Israel. That experience changed my being. If you can understand what Israel is in many of you all's heart, see, many in the diaspora, you have learned the law of Yah. You study the prophets, inside and out, backwards and forwards. You study the words of Yah. And in doing so, your heart yearns to go to the land of Israel, or Yashara'al, or Yashara'Allah, according to how we read the language. And so, in that light, 2019 represents, for many of the Israelites in diaspora, from 1619 to 2019, the end of the 400 years. In 1967, the Kingdom of Yor made its venture into the wilderness of the people, Liberia. And in the 70s, I believe it was 1970, or was it 71? It was around that time. We entered into the land of Israel. 1969, Slikai told everybody. We landed in the land of Israel. At that time, many said it was early for the Kingdom of Yor to go home. But that's not why I'm here tonight, so I don't even want to talk about that. The reason I'm here tonight is because the experiences that the kingdom has had has allowed us, the purpose for the kingdom to go home, the purpose for us to be in the land, the reason behind that was to pave a way for Israel to come home. That moment has arrived. So tonight, there's two things that are taking place tonight. The first thing that's taking place is I want to listen to the leaders. We want to hear from the leaders different opinions from the different leadership, how they see the Exodus after the 400-year captivity. We also want to know, do the leadership and the leaders at the table believe 2019 is the year that the Exodus is to take place? And lastly, we want to work together as a unit, no matter what, because the scripture says, gather yourselves together, O nation, not desire. Not religion, not ideology, not beliefs, but gather yourselves together, O nation, not desire. We want to gather together, O nation, not desire, no matter what the belief system is in this season. It is very important. So, in our discussions, and as our leadership sits at the table, what we want to do, we want to make sure that there is no debating about doctrine. It's very important that we do this. Why do I say that? I saw something spectacular happen in New York that I had never, ever seen in my life amongst Israelites. I had never seen before. And what that was, I watched Israelites and Moors come together and work together no matter what they believed, because in that event there was a common enemy called the Egyptians. What did that show me? That showed me that when we work together, we can accomplish anything. The hardest thing it has ever been to accomplish, in my opinion, with Israel, is to get Israelites, no matter what they believe, to come together and work together. That is the truth of the matter. And so, due to that fact, together, we can develop a plan and a strategy to exodus from America out of the captivity and in the overall experience arrive back as in the land of Israel, and it's our land. And that is the goal, one of the goals for this evening. That is the overall goal. Tonight we also have a special saint and beyond saint, Sar, in the house. Because not only is he a saint, but he is also an officer in the kingdom. And so before we start on the discussion, I definitely want him to be able to speak and share with you the information that he brought from Jerusalem to share with you all. But afterwards, I most definitely want all of the leadership that's here at the table, any leader, Babakashah, if you could as well. Okay, whenever you want to, you are welcome to sit at the table. But any leader in the audience that is a leader of a camp or any organization amongst our people, we want you to sit at the table. We have to come together and talk. We have to strategize together as a unit. It's very important. So with that, our commemoration, if you wouldn't mind introducing our beloved Sar and allowing him to share the message for the people tonight, and then we can get into our discussion of Akasha.
First, giving all honor and praises to Yahuwah Kadosh Israel, to our anointed, transcendent leader, Adon Ben Ami, to the chief men, Elder Barak, Sheikh, Sa Mariel, Rabbi Shlomo, my friend, Rabbi Denyame, Baruch Slicha, my other friend. We go way back. Distinguished guests, I greet you, shalom, shalom. So our Sar comes from Israel, and he comes to New York, and he runs into some brothers, and he says, this is what we should do. I have an idea. We should be talking about our Exodus of 2019 and putting together a conference in Israel in 2019-2020 of our 400-year captivity in America. So my first mind says, we should go straight to New York. And then me and Dawid had a conversation, and they said, well, why New York? I said, because New York is tough. I said, and that's where we need to go first. We go get the tough guys first. And so, here we are. We got a great relationship. I'm from Chicago originally. I was born a Hebrew Israelite from Ben Azakin under the leadership of Prince Yaakov. Many of you may know him. But through my trials, I studied up under Rabbi Hodges, Rabbi Funay, and now Adon Ben Ami, who transcended a few years ago. So I'm well rooted in this way of life. I cannot be moved. You understand? And so, but I do want to recognize the elder rabbi, the chief. He's not the chief rabbi, but he is a chief. Don't get me wrong. I know you can't stay, but you want to come up and just address the people for a second? Like I said,
from here,
you could do it from there.
get on, praise the Most High God, and I'm honored and pleased to be among the leaders of Israel, along with my colleague Rabbi Baruch Yehuda. We're representing the Israelite Board of Rabbis, and on behalf of the Chief Rabbi and all of my colleagues around the country, we wish you well in this endeavor, and we hope to be a part of it and working to bring Israel together. And so we were happy to have Sar with us this morning for our worship service, and I felt obligated to try to get him here in time. We tried our best with the New York traffic, and but my wife and son are in the car waiting, so that's why I said I'm going to bring him up, make sure he gets here safely, and then I'll be back down. That's my only reason for not taking a seat with you wonderful brothers this evening, but I hope on a future occasion I can join you, and this is the beginning of an ongoing dialogue. And so, in my absence, Rabbi Baruch, who is the Executive Secretary of the Israelite Board of Rabbis, and the Attaché to Chief Rabbi Funay will be able to convey what you talk about to the rest of us. So may Hashem bless you in this endeavor, and may He help bring us all together. Torah.
So that's our thing. Beloved Sar is bringing the presentation, and just to give you a background on me and Sar's relationship. You know, I've been knowing Sar for close to 20 years now. When I first arrived at Shores now, I've been going back and forth to Israel, and he contests. There's never been a time that I have not been to Israel and not sat at his feet. Been to his house, you know, all his children. You know, he's my teacher.
You sure?
Well, not all of them. Not all. But George, you got no. But we have a great relationship, and I'm happy to work with him. You know, we've been wanting to do this, and we said that, hey, you know, the table, you know, it turns and turns and it turns. Now let it be our turn again. And so with that, I bring you our divine minister who's bringing his presentation, Sar Mariel. Can we say hallelujah? Hallelujah! 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 Hallelujah!
First, allow me to give all honor and praises to the Holy One of Israel, to all of his anointed sons and servants who have, throughout the dispensations, labored to bring us to the fruition of what I hope we're going to be realizing in this coming year, and that is our deliverance out of this captivity. To all the elders, in whatever form that they may be found, I greet you in the Holy Tongue. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem.
I've even just in the few minutes I've been here, I've heard it related about what we want to do, and I just want to reiterate, and I want to thank two brothers in particular who actually kind of planted the seed for my presence here, and they are my brother Elder Barak and brother Matatua. And these brothers were among the first of the varied Hebrew Israelite congregations, camps, denominations to actually come and spend time with us in Dimona. And we started the dialogue, and on about their fourth or maybe even their fifth journey, one of the brothers shared with me, he said, but you know, if we're going to get this together, talking about the broad family, he said, you all are going to have to help us. And that was a seed planted in my mind. And about 4 months ago, I'm laying on my bed on the Shabbat, 3 in the morning, couldn't sleep, was thinking about how we were going to be able to come together. A lot of talk already about 2019, and I had problems with 2019. I have a problem with 2019 because I don't think that it was 1619 that we first arrived on these shores. And certainly it wasn't the first that we arrived in this hemisphere. And so there are camps who say that the Puerto Ricans and the Cubans, you know, are part of the different tribes. Well, 1500s, they were arriving in the Caribbean. Our people were arriving in the Caribbean. So something's wrong with that dating. But nevertheless, I know with all the energy that we are applying and all the talk that's going about, even at the level of the House of Representatives and Donald Trump signing off on H.R. 1242, if we don't come together as brethren and sit down and strategize the nuts and bolts of our deliverance, 2019 will come and go, and we will still be slaves. And it's actually, that bill is actually has something to do with a commemorating of our history. And if our history is not tied into the fact that this is a captivity for us, then they'll just be ready for the next 400 years of partying. And so we know that whatever our doctrinal differences are, of which we certainly have quite a few, that there comes a time when a fireman has to say, hey, the house is burning. I can't save it. In fact, we have to get, whoever we've gotten out of there, that's it. We can't risk anyone else. That house is condemned. It has to fall down. Hard decisions. But I think we've reached that point. We certainly, in the what people refer to as the KOI, the Hebrew Israelites based in Dimona, we've reached a decision where we're no longer applying a lot of energy like we used to in the various jurisdictions and extensions, as we used to call them. Chicago, DC, Atlanta. We've pared down to skeletal structures. Our focus is now in what we call the Edenic lands, Africa. That's where our energies have been, and it will continue in that regard because we see no future here in the immediate, long, short terms. No future here. We have to leave here for our own survival, and our energies have to be applied elsewhere. That's our decision. Anyone who is serious about the Exodus movement, we're your family. We endured the being told it ain't time. It ain't been time for 50 years. But 50 years, brothers, and we're in that land. Our presence is there. We're a reality. It's been done and it can't be undone. There's a precedence that's been established. There's a foundation that's been established. There are institutions that have been established. The foundations of nationhood. Maybe all of us can't get to Israel in the immediate term, if that's your objective. Being pragmatic. And I'm cutting to the chase here because I want to open the floor to some dialogue. I'm not just here to bring a one-way message. But we have to really look at our cues that we're being given. What do I mean? Ghana's president is now pushing openly the idea of dual citizenship in Ghana. He's talking about the right of abode. This is nothing new. But we're happy to say that in the last 2 years, we have one of the brothers in our community who got dual citizenship. Many of you know Rabbi Netanya, Kohen Netanya Halevi. He's another one that got his dual citizenship in Ghana. So this is being discussed at that level, at the level of the African Union. I make it my business to go in and out of South Africa. I'm very involved with our communities there, and there are several hundred South African, indigenous South Africans who follow the guidelines that we've established at Jerusalem. And so I make it my business to go and to search out the individuals who are in positions, whether they be at provincial level, municipal level, at the different ethnic groups, the kingdom, the Ndebele kingdom, the Zulu kingdom. We're forging relationships there. Just like my counterparts who work in Ghana or that work in Kenya. We're forging these relationships with people on the ground, and we're being what we're supposed to be prophetically. We're being that light unto the nations. We're teaching organic farming. We're drilling boreholes in Kenya. We're drilling boreholes in Ghana and Benin and Togo. We're there on the ground teaching this divine lifestyle that we've pioneered at Jerusalem, where we can proudly say, and when I say we, because we did this. We're all family. We didn't do it for ourselves to be an insular community of 2,000 to 3,000. This is something that we had to share with all of our brothers and sisters. And so we're following our cues. And our cues are saying, trying that door in Israel, now I agree, it might not be time for everybody to roll up in there. But there's other options because We've got the whole planet to redeem.
That's right.
And we're involved in a redemptive struggle. We understand, brothers like Rabbi just had to leave, told Rabbi this morning, during the course of the afternoon, that we understand about the knowledge of our identity and the struggle for identity and who we are and having that in the midst of a captivity. But we also want you to know that after leaving here, being clear on what our identity was and moving to the land, being in the land, laying on the floors, 30 deep in 2-bedroom apartments, do you know the order and discipline that required us to survive that? Do you know what it meant not to have access to health care or education? The fact was that we had to develop our own health care system. We couldn't afford to get sick. But I see my sister in the back row, Sister Adina. We're part of a team that went and, haven't seen you in so long. We were part of a team in Ghana that were there based 3 years to officially work with the Ministry of Health of Ghana in preventive health. Because they can't afford to get sick either. They can't afford to build hospitals, clinics sufficient to really help them. And you all know that healthcare in this country is a ruse. It's a big business. Your being sick is big business. Go get an operation. The hospital profits $15,000. What do you think a hospital profits when it hits, when they make a mistake? Anybody thought about that? Somebody has. They've documented it. If they botch your surgery, guess what that hospital profit shoots to? $45,000 for making a mistake. So the next time you go in for surgery, you got to be thinking, is that doctor, is he overdoing his mortgage on his car payment or his daughter's tuition? It's something to think about. I'm simply saying to you, we got to make some bold decisions. Back in the day, we used to say, what time is it? And the answer was, it's nation time. And if we're not really building a nation, if we're not going into 2019 with the idea that we are going to have to accept the burdens of freedom, then we will, we just need to go on and accept the burdens of slavery, because we've been doing that pretty good for 400 years. Shouldn't be hard to keep doing it another 400 for some people. But if you realize that some things have got to change and that our extinction is looking us in the face, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. And we don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. How many in this room have been to Israel? And I would hope all those hands they came to Dimona, because there's a lot of our people, they'll go to Israel and won't come see us. That's why I love these brothers here. And we haven't had not one argument yet about doctrine or anything else for that matter. And when I came a couple months ago to visit them, brothers, and all the brothers that were with them that hadn't been making the journey, brotherhood, a sincere warmth. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what's going to win the day. That's what's going to win the day. I came into knowledge of my identity in 1975 in Detroit. I heard a brother teaching there, and I knew I was a Hebrew. It was 2 years later, because I couldn't find anywhere in D.C. where I'm from, I couldn't find anywhere that I could gravitate to that made sense. 2 years later, I found myself swooped up by angels that were sent from Dimona. And I was taught, and I'm a fast learner, especially things that I love to learn about, I learn them quick. And I found myself the next year helping to put brothers and sisters on the planes, because Kennedy was the East Coast International Airport. So if you were going to Israel, Kennedy was the place. And so I would assist getting our brothers and sisters on the planes for various reasons. They needed assistance in those days. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Because we were radicals. We were serious about the deliverance of our people. And so somebody had to be that face to make sure that they were safe and get them up out of here. And so during busy seasons, I would find myself having to stay over in New York. So one day I'm just walking. I said, let me just hit the streets and see my people and walk through New York. Up Broad, 125th. Let me go over to Harlem. And I'm walking through Harlem and I see a Star David on the second floor of a building there. And I see some brothers getting out of their cars, walking up, into the building. And it's time for class. And I'm looking, and in my naivety, in my zeal, I'm like, man, let me go and tell the brothers we in the land. 1977, 78. I'm not knowing nothing about all the fragmentation of the Hebrew Israelite black Jew community. Don't know nothing about that. Well, that was a rude awakening for me that night, because I became the topic of the class. And the class was, why it ain't time. Something was in me, didn't allow me to be swayed. I knew better. I had already visited, y'all just don't understand. Or you just ain't one that's called at this moment. Any brothers here did military service? Boot camp. Don't everybody make it through boot camp. Those that left here in 1967 and went to Liberia and laid up in tents in Liberia in the tropical rain. Those that did that, those that braved the black and green mamba snake, and I'm not talking about just brothers, sisters, there were some sisters that were out there in that. You tell your children don't play by the wells. Little Connor's playing down there with the other children. She falls in, they're afraid to even come back and tell us before it's too late. Sacrifices were made. Dysentery, malaria. The little money ran out. Broke, like to die of starvation, literally, because the mindset we left here with was that food grew on the shelf of the local supermarket. Humbled. We had to get broke down to the point where a Liberian would come through and see us struggling and say, hey, why don't you eat this? He's pointing to some weeds. We didn't know. We didn't know that they were good for nutrition. We were literally in Eden, paradise, stuff growing all over the place, but we didn't know any better. That low point began our way back and building. We can brag about the things we've accomplished, the things you've accomplished in the last 50 years now. Preventive health system. Now we can teach people how not to get sick. Yeah, it's a master can take a scalpel and cut an organ out, stop your heart, take it out, reroute it. That's a master. We give it to him. Ben Carson, he's one of those masters. He ain't too good at his politics. But what about a master who can teach us how to eat so that we don't need a scalpel, that we don't need heart bypass, that we can get by without obesity and high blood pressure and kidney failure? Those doctors exist, brothers. Those doctors exist. And we building on that. Do we have some problems? Yes, we have some problems. We take our problems, we fall down moving forward. I know you've all heard a lot of things. Fake news ain't nothing new for us. Fake news been around a long time. Fake news said that Ben-Ami was a bus driver. Ben-Ami never drove a bus in his life. One reporter started that. So we've been, like I said, black identity extremists, FBI, COINTELPRO, Operation Project Megiddo. Ain't nothing new for us. no weapon formed shall prosper. Hasn't yet. We going on with it. The institutions, the foundation's been laid. Just come and build on it. The blueprint's there. A formula has allowed us to be out of this land, out of this ungodly land for 5 decades plus. Formulas just have to be, hey, what's the formula? You can replicate the success. So, I'm back in New York because the idea came to me. The voice spoke to me in the personage of these 2 brothers right here. And I couldn't let it go, and I looked up and, well, man, 2019, at the end of 2019, because I know ain't nothing getting ready to happen mythical or magical. Is anybody here expecting something to fall out the sky in 2019? Are we really expecting the ships of Tarshish to land on the Hudson to come and get us? Will it be broadcast in the, I can't even say, what's the local black paper? Is there a local black paper anymore? Will it be on what is it, LS, WLS, what? BLS? Will it be broadcast? Hey, it's time to go. If you and I don't sit down, put our differences to the side, strategize, come up with a plan, develop the means to say, okay, we're going to put this aside, we're going to put that aside, we're going to consolidate, we're going to send this family, we're going to investigate this country, investigate what their laws and rules are for. We could well apply for political asylum given the condition we live under here. And our African brethren are going to relate to that idea. And we don't have to be like the Zimbabweans who are all over South Africa now. We don't need the government of South Africa to give us anything. Because we come in with this. And we come in with our relationship with the Most High. And if we're not bringing that, I'll be the first one to say we need to stay here. We need to stay here. Reparations, it would be a disaster. Be a disaster. Why? Because everybody get their little check and go out and buy a new Cadillac, party it up. The next week we'd all be broke. It'd be a good economic stimulus package if Trump was wise. Go on and give them niggas reparations. They're going to give it right back to them. Except that we got a new mind and some new institutions. The church did what it was supposed to do back in post-slavery. It did what it was supposed to do in civil rights era. But the church ain't, we all know the church has outlived its function. And so have our camps and congregations and groups. We got to grow up. We got to move on. That's my message, brothers. That's my message. And it ain't about Hebrew conscious, Hebrew aware. I invited one of the brothers from DC to come up, Pastor Farad Masael, formerly Fred Massey. He's AME Zion. But he ain't an AME Zion pastor like you thinking of an AME Zion pastor. He's been to Israel 3-4 times. Each time he brings a whole new group. Very conscious. Very conscious. He wanted to come. Some of you brothers may know him because he identifies as a Moor. It can't be that we allow these titles and neighborhoods to keep us divided any longer. That's our plea. And it's time. It's prophetically time. It's prophetically correct. It is what we are to do. If not you, who? If not now, when? It's different now. 2019, my vision is that we hold sessions, we start talking this up. And again, there's going to be some criteria for coming up to Jerusalem and talking and having this summit at Jerusalem. Imagine the power of us having unity summits in the land. Imagine that. Imagine the thoughts that will come to you when you're outside of all this chaos and confusion. When you're on the high place. High places are where you set up your radar. Just like Ezekiel said, aha, an enemy has come and said, even the ancient high places are ours in possession. You've been there. Everywhere in the land that something in our history, in our culture took place, they got the Roman flag there. Franciscans, St. Francis of Assisi. They got the Greek flag there. The Russians, who are atheists, they got the Garden of Gethsemane. Everybody's in that land. And they're celebrating, in fact, 800 years, the Crusades, when they took the land. They got banners up, celebrating 800 years of their occupation of those high places. But it's some other high places that we got to take back too. Some other high places, like love. Love ain't just some emotion. I love you, baby. I love. Love. Show me. Show me. Because love got to become a verb, not an adjective or a noun. It's got to be doing the right things to and for one another. Got to take back these high places. You can't be talking about heaven and then put it up in the sky, because that ain't what the Hebraic understanding of heaven was. This is our heaven, our minds. So when the book of Revelation said there was war in heaven, it's not up in the sky, it's here. So these new thoughts come and they wage war against those old thoughts. War in heaven. It's a whole lot we got to talk about. Not a lot of time to talk about it. So we got to talk fast. We got to talk sensibly. And we got to have some ground rules. Not getting ready to subject ourselves to fighting and bickering. Time out. Time out. We have to come together as brethren. And sister, and I know y'all waiting on it. I know y'all been waiting on this day. We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. We can do it. We've done it before. There's a new spirit moving. Our presence here, Rabbi Baruch, us being together, you're coming to visit with Rabbi Fournier. Rabbi Shlomo coming on the heels of his visit. It's a new day. It's a new day. Our presence, the fact that we're sitting at this table together. I haven't had a chance to meet these brothers yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, and I thank Brother Dawid and Tora Moresha for saying, hey, you know, there's a buzz after you left, and we need to we need to get you back and what have you. What did I tell you? I said, you put it together, I'm coming. Put it together, I'm coming. That's our commitment. That's how we've been taught. That's how we've been taught. So, Atur, are you like the moderator, or do we have a moderator? Dawid? I'd like to open the floor to questions that you might. I'm the Minister of Information for the community, for African Hebrew Israelites. In Hebrew, it's sar hasbara, from the verb lehasbir, which means to give an explanation. That's my job, to give explanation. If you got any questions, if you got any reservations about something, ask me. I love my job. I love my job. I was made for this day. And so I don't want you to leave here with any, misconceptions. You had the opportunity. And if time don't allow, I'll give you my card and we can stay in touch. But we've got to move forward from this day forward, and we've got to make this a launching pad. If you say New York's that tough, let's see. I'm up for it. I was up for it in '77, walking the streets. I'll hit the streets again. When I hit South Africa, I used to stroll through Soweto. And I had some brothers to step with me and found out that they were Umkhonto we Sizwe. They were MK. They were the militant wing of the ANC. And they are listening and hearing this message. They're identifying with this message, and you have the key to help them. Your experience in this hellhole, your experience in going through the 60s and the 70s and the promises that were made, political empowerment, economic empowerment, they relive in that. They just went through 22 years of political empowerment and they realized that was a trick bag. Now they're pushing economic empowerment. We got to get to them. We got to bring our experience to bear. Other than that, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're not fulfilling our role and purpose.
At this time, I'm asking that all recording, it's okay if you record, but I'm asking that you do not place that recording on Facebook or YouTube or any social media outlet. The recordings at this point are private for each camp, congregation, or organization, or or entity. So I want to make sure that no one is doing that at this time. But recording is fine. Just want to make sure that you confine it to that. The beginning portion with myself speaking, Atur Maresha, and Sara Madiel, that is fine if you wanted to run that on Facebook or YouTube at this time. But the only reason I want to do that is because I want to make sure that all the leadership is extremely comfortable with giving the answers that they want to give. If at any time the leadership says, hey, it's okay to go on Facebook, we will let you know and we can do that. But this right now, I want to respect all leaders at the table and make sure that they are comfortable answering any question. Is that all right with the leadership? Everyone's in agreement?
Yes.
Leadership. So at this time, I want to ask the first question. And the first question that I have for all leadership, and we can start with Rabbi Baruch, Bavakasha. I wanted to ask, the first question we want to ask is, 2019, does the International Board of Rabbis see that as also as the time or season for Exodus, or before or after? Do they see 2019 as the 400-year marker? That's my question.
Shalom Aleichem.
You're welcome to stand up there.
We saved that for the paper.
I was going to stay here from there.
There has been no discussion as a group or as our board about 2019 being a particular demarcation. We've noted it as saying that, this is from the time they said 1619 Jamestown, et cetera, arriving to the shores, 400 years. We look at it as a landmark, but no one has talked about it in terms of it being a standard that this is the time that the Creator has set.
Okay.
From my experience within this community, we mark time. We mark events. But we never have gotten into saying, well, this is what the Creator is going to do now. We mark time, we mark events, and then we wait to see what He's going to do.
Okay.
We have to do what we need to do for the times and the places that we are inhabiting here now, wherever they may be, across the globe.
Okay, gotcha. Talk about it. All right. you want to defer to Sheik, or would you rather speak?
I'll speak first, and just to be brief, my name is Sheik Amir Talib El. I'm the chairman here at this temple. In terms of the Moorish perspective, what we look at as, in terms of the Exodus, we're not really taking a particular stance in terms of doctrinal. Our position is that those of our people that want to participate in the Exodus in Israel should do so, but we also have a birthright here in America stemming from the laws that freed us from slavery. So the official amendment that we have on the books today in the Constitution, 13th Amendment with 2 sections, is not the actual amendment. When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, this law was passed that had 20 sections, and they basically switched it. So, and we know about the Emancipation Proclamation, but there were actually 4 proclamations that entailed what this government owed us. And they didn't educate us on it because these radical racist Europeans from the South didn't want us to know what was passed in the legislation. So it's not something we have to ask for. It's just something that's on the books. I personally contacted the National Archives. We have the records, the actual certified documents from the government. And I just want to read a real brief passage in terms of that. Well, before I even do that, I will say this. What was supposed to take place that did not was us to be naturalized as citizens of the United States of America. We were supposed to be colonized. We were supposed to be able to colonize a territory within the United States, our own territory, or anywhere along the 36-degree 30 latitude lines across the planet Earth with the consent of the government. Now, this is how brothers were able to be able to colonize in Liberia, utilizing this same legislation. So this actually ties into the history of Ben Amin and the brothers from the Kingdom of Yah. And we were also to be paid compensation for the labor that our ancestors performed during slavery. And our brother, Muhammad Honeycutt Bey in the back, he's our mathematician. What is the amount owed to present day? Because it has compound interest, and they defaulted in the year 1900. What's the amount that's owed to our people today? So up to present day, it's $14 billion that's owed to us. A territory within the United States or outside of the United States. So what I envision and what the brothers of our particular ideology envision is colonization, not only in the land of Israel, but anywhere along that 36-30 and within the United States, that a territory that we control. So I'm just going to read a brief.
Could you repeat you said anywhere in Israel, or what was the number that you used?
The 36 degrees and 30 degrees latitude lines. So, you know, if the planet is kind of, they have the longitude lines, which is the long lines, and the latitude lines, which would correspond with like the equator is one of them.
Okay.
So between these 6 degrees across the planet Earth, the United States government is supposed to provide resources to allow us to colonize anywhere along this. And I'm going to read an excerpt pertaining to this.
What's the name of the book?
This book is called The Resurrection by Timothy Dingwell. He was Grand Sheikh Timothy Dingwell. He was a man who carried on the lineage of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He published this literature to give us more clarity than just some of the information. Because the Moorish pamphlets are small, he actually expounded on this information. And this excerpt that I'm about to read, I could provide you the source later. But he's actually, this is not his words. He's quoting from a text. Actually, it's from the Liberator, December 5th, 1862. And the history of Abraham Lincoln and the overthrow of slavery. So I'm just going to read a brief excerpt from that. And it states, the message of 1862, on the first Monday in December 1862, President Lincoln sent his second annual message to Congress. It was various, received by 2 classes of people objected to it. Those who wanted to restore the Union as it was and did not like it, and the radical abolitionists criticized it severely. The real scope and meaning of the message was evidently not understood by the people at large at that time. It is given small attention by some of Lincoln's early biographers, and yet it now appears one of the most suggestive documents of Lincoln's official life. This message referred briefly to the colonization scheme, which had been passed by Congress. And Mr. Lincoln admitted that it had not been a satisfactory success. Quoting the initial draft of the Emancipation Proclamation, he launched a new compensated emancipation scheme. This was formulated as a suggested amendment to the United States Constitution. I'm not quoting right now. I'm going to just say this is the 13th Amendment with 20 sections, which was passed in the year 1865, that they switched and kept the same vote count so that we would not be privy but it's still a law that's on the books today. We retrieved it from the National Archives approximately 2 years ago. We got the certified copies of it. It provided that any state which should abolish slavery before the year 1900 should receive compensation for its slaves in the shape of interest-bearing government bonds. All slaves, however, that had been freed by the chances of war at any time before the end of the rebellion were to be free forever, but the loyal owners of such slaves were to be compensated for their human property. And the amended Constitution also empowered Congress to provide the ways and means for for the colonization of emancipated colored people with their own consent somewhere outside the territory of the United States. So I'm going to briefly also say this, that the 13th Amendment with 20 section was predicated upon Leviticus 25:10. So there was a debate in the Senate March 31st, 1864, in which Senator Harlan and Senator Salisbury were debating on what law could you utilize to free a slave and to naturalize a slave. And at the end of the debate, the only law that could be agreed upon within any nation in the history of the world, within any law in the history of the world, was Leviticus 25:10. O hallow the 50th year, proclaim jubilee throughout the land, return every man unto his family and every man unto his possession. And the possession that would belong to us was this Western Hemisphere. So you had Israelites in the ancient times, or what we refer to as Moors or Moorish Israelites, or whatever terminology you want to use, that occupied the Western Hemisphere millennia before Europeans got here. So they were, and they would return us unto our families. So this law is actually, the 13th Amendment with 20 sections, this law that I'm referring is actually predicated on the Hebrew law. Why? Because they knew we were the Hebrews. They knew our ancestry already. So they utilized our own law as a term to naturalize us as citizens and to compensate us, because when you free a slave, according to our law, you had to compensate him. And you had to compensate him liberally. So this is where the basis was for this law. So colonization, compensation was encapsulated in this 13th Amendment with 20 sections. And I'll just quote from section 17 where it says, whenever any state wherein involuntary servitude is recognized or allowed shall propose to abolish such servitude and shall apply for pecuniary assistance therein, the Congress may in its discretion grant such relief not exceeding $100 for each person liberated. It's $100 in the year 1865, predicated upon the gold standard, not fiat currency that exists today. But Congress shall not propose such abolishment or relief to any state. Congress may assist free persons of African descent to immigrate and colonize Africa. So this is just one section that talks about this. But I will close with this portion. Beyond the compensation, beyond the colonization, I think it's very important that we understand that we have a birthright here. So even those that have immigrated into the land of Israel, they still have a birthright. It's like a check that we never cashed. And if we don't advocate for what it is and take our political grievances to the government, which is under the First Amendment, you have a right to petition the government for grievances. And when I mean petition, I mean sue. So we got the certified copies, which is Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. So we don't have to ask for reparations. We don't have to ask for the government to come and assist us. We just have to demand them to follow the law that was passed during the time of our freedom. We fought, and many of our ancestors fought and died in the Civil War. We fought and won our freedom and saved this nation. And this is owed to us, not because out of the kindness of their hearts, because we don't look to those that have mercy that don't have any mercy within them. It's just what is the law. And if anything, they respect. It's the law. So I'll close with that. I'm sure my Grand Sheik will, if I missed any points, he'll touch on it.
Not at this time. If you don't mind, can you hold it?
Shalom.
And the only reason, let me be clear with the reason behind that. I don't want to be seem rude or anything like that. The reason I don't want to have any questions answered right now is because the call for this is a leadership table right now. There's a reason. And so we have to understand each other and the positions where we stand in order to move forward. And so what I want to do is, if you have any questions or comments, hold them. And if you can, get the information from the leader that you want to ask the question to. That way you all can create a dialogue and talk to the leaders themselves. If we have time for questions after, we'll definitely open up for that. But I want to be clear, and I want to make sure we get the positions of these leaders tonight. Is that all right with you, my beloved brother? Appreciate it.
Shalom. First, I want to give praise to the Most High, give honor to all divine prophets. I'm Grand Sheik Yusef Bey, and so I want to give honor to all the brothers and sisters that's here. I'm gonna be brief because the Sheik Amir Talib El, he basically covered all the basic points from the Moorish perspective. But we have to understand too is that our prophet originally said that we come from the Holy Land of Canaan, which is known as Israel. So we have ties to that land, and we definitely need to establish a relationship with the land of Israel, with our brothers and sisters in Dimona, Israel. That's very important. And like the brother Sheik Amir Talib El said, it was a debate in the Senate, and they said the only remaining law was the Hebrew law. And like the brother said, based upon the 13 over 20 sections, it's based upon the Hebrew law because they had no other law to utilize but the Hebrew law, Leviticus 25:10. And that's at the Liberty Bell, which is on the Liberty Bell, which is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, within the policy of Abraham Lincoln, which is the proclamation, you had the initial Emancipation Proclamation on September 22nd, 1865, and it talked about 1862. Yeah, thank you. 1862, what talks about the military and navy must maintain and recognize our freedom at all times, and that we're able to also colonize in America, also in Africa. So this is very a key point, and it ties in to what the brothers and sisters here are talking about, as far as going to Dimona, Israel, and migrating back over there to the Holy Land. So I just want to say that from a moral perspective, we recognize our Hebrew identity. We recognize that our brother Jesus, that we from the children of Israel, and that it's not really it's not a big disconnect. So that's why the brother Dawid, he had us come to the meeting, because he realized that there's a big connection between us, as original people, and that we begin to have an international connection with one another, so we could eventually, go to Israel and have a community there as well. So with that, I say peace.
Barak. Elder Barak.
All praises to Yahweh Bahashem HaMashiach Yahweh Shai. I'm Elder Barak from the House of David, and on behalf of the House of David, to all the brothers and sisters that are here, I'd say shalom. Shalom. All right. I've been listening to all the statements, to everybody that has been spoke already, and on the issue concerning the 400 years, the House of David, we do have a stand on that concerning the 400 years. But before I get to that, I just want to pay respect to Saul Mariel from Dimona, okay, because it was Saul Mariel in Dimona and the Hebrew village, myself and other brothers from the House of David who visited Israel about 3 years ago, about 4 years ago. And when we first went there, we were invited to the Hebrew village, Dimona, as well as Mount Zion. And I like to say that it was a blessing. The Spirit of the Most High and Yahweh Shai was with us. And we went there and we visited the different sites that we read about in the scriptures, and especially Mount Zion. But the Spirit told us one thing: visit Dimona. Okay, when we visited Dimona, we were welcomed by the brothers at the Hebrew village, especially Saul Mariel, and he welcomed us, brought us right in, showed us around the Hebrew village. We seen the brothers and sisters that were there. We seen how peaceful it was there. We seen how they built it up in the spirit of the Most High. We seen the farm they had there. We seen we even seen where they had the different the bee farm, and had the honey, and you had everything there. We had seen the ice cream shop they had there, the wine. So and we see how everything was in order. So we've seen that the Most High had the spirit on these brothers way back, the leadership concerning the brothers Benjamin, and other leadership that started that journey in the late 60s, early 70s to Israel. But I would like to say this, that we have a duty as leaders, we have a commitment in the spirit of Most High and Yahushua to begin to bring this nation together. And I agree with Saul Mariel. Israel is the key. The House of David, about 3 or 4 years ago, we started what we call the Mashara Yasha'Allah. These are summits, like Mariel was talking about a summit in Israel. We had started these summits, and we do have a council, and some of the brothers in the council at the House of David couldn't make it, but we have other brothers in the Mashara Yasha'Allah Council, and the leadership. And there's one thing the Most High showed us: begin to have summits and gatherings and assemble Israel to the best of our ability and talk about coming together. Like the scriptures teach us, gather thyself together, O nation not desired. So we started that. We're on, we're up to our 12th summit.
What's the name of the summit?
The Mashara Yasha'Allah. It means government of Israel in Hebrew. Mashara Yasha'Allah. And we started these summits, and we've been all over the country. We've been all over. California, Detroit, Ohio, Florida, DC, New York, Texas, all over, North Carolina. The next one, Most High will, would be in Atlanta. And we invited Saul Mariel, if he's willing to come, Most High will. But nevertheless, the same spirit that is here, that I see, that we must gather Israel and our people together in these last days before the destruction comes. This is what the scriptures teach us. And so you're right, we must gather together. And as leaders of different schools and camps and Israelite camps and schools, we have a duty, according to the Most High's word, to bring this nation together. It's our duty. And we're kind of lacking on that because the divisions and the different schisms, and you have Old Testament Israelites, you have the New Testament, House of David is Messianic. Okay, we're in Yahushua. We're in the Mashiach Yahushua. Okay, so you can understand. And the scriptures teach us that if you lift Yahushua up, he will draw all men to us. Okay, but it has to be done in the right spirit. And Yahushua said, forsake not the coming together, of assembling together. He said, don't forsake that. So these type of meetings and the Mashara Yasha'Allah summits and the one Saul Mariel is talking about having in Israel, I think are all very, very important. So it's high time for us to begin to do that. But we're lacking. We're kind of slow. Now, concerning the 400 years, the scriptures say, Micah 2:10, America is not our rest. All right? This is not our rest. Most High said America is polluted. And we were dispersed because of our sins throughout all the regions of the earth, because of our sins. So America was really just a place of our punishment to serve captivity, not for us to get any political gain, not for us to get any property, any land, and so on and so forth. So Mariel and Benjamin, when they started that journey to seek Israel, they were correct. That's why the scripture says, seek Zion, all right? Seek Israel, seek Zion, because that's where our redemption, our salvation, and our power, and our wealth, and all that's going to come back. The Most High is not going to have these white folk or the elite of these white folk give us anything. They don't want to, they don't care. They are enemies, and we have to understand that. Bottom line, they are enemies. Now, we could fight, and we had the Civil Rights Movement. We had the Black Panthers. All these different movements have tried. The NAACP have tried, but these movements have since been basically infiltrated and basically, in some cases, just totally destroyed. And we know Black Lives Matters and these current associations, they are really backed by the elite of the society. So it really doesn't matter. We have to come together, and the scripture says the Most High wants to separate ourselves from these nations and come together, and then praise the Most High, right, and worship the Most High. Then the Most High will begin to bring that power and our land and our language and our identity and all the things that are associated with us being an Israelite back to us. But if we're saying that we're gonna do it here in America, from where the house of David stands in our perspective, reading the scriptures, we don't really see it that way. We see we have to separate and begin our journey back to Israel, Mount Zion, and that's where the power. The disciples got the power and the spiritual power, and the Comforter came unto them when they came all together on one accord. One accord. Then that's when the Spirit, like cloven tongues, came upon them. And then they were able to have power, speak in tongues, different languages, and so on and so forth. They were able to heal our people and so forth. That's when the Spirit came upon them. And until we do that and come together on one accord, we're not going to get no power. All right? There's not going to be no coming together, because you can't come together when some of us are this faction, another one of us is this religious persuasion, another one of us is in this political system, and another one of us is part of another association. It's not going to happen that way. It has to be under one banner, under one understanding, under one nationality. And then the Most High will begin to bring his Spirit down upon us as one, not as many, as one. And so we have to understand that. So the position of the 400 years, we don't see it as 2019 per se. We see 2019 as a landmark or a marker, the beginning of something. Because as you know, when you read the scripture, especially in the book of Revelation, we know certain things have to happen. The tribulation period, let's say, that hasn't happened yet. The coming of the Antichrist, different things have to happen. You have the 7 last plagues, the 7 vials, all right? The 7 seals have to be opened. Different things have to happen when you read the scriptures, all right? And the scriptures teach you how the Mashiach Yahushai will come out of the heavens and destroy our enemies, all right, and bring the angels to redeem Israel from the 4 corners of the earth. Different things have to happen. So we see 2019 as, the 400 years, but as a marker or the beginning of, let's say, even the destruction, the beginning of the destruction. And we know the scriptures teach us about a tribulation period that's going to happen. So we see it hasn't started yet, even though you have tribulation in the earth. But that tribulation period you read about, especially when the 7 seals are broken, all right? And Revelation 6 chapter, those things haven't began yet. So we don't see 2019 as, let's say, the salvation or the redeeming of Israel at that time when it comes. We see it as the beginning of something, or the beginning of the end for this society, for this world, this current society, this world. So the house of David sees it on that wise and in that respect. Okay?
Really appreciate that answer. The next question that I want to ask is, does your entity have a plan for Exodus at this time? And I'm asking if it's a simple no or yes, it's fine. If you have an explanation, that's fine. Feel free to speak.
Well, the International Israelite Board of Rabbis has not put a plan together for an exodus. However, we recognize that there's the need for our ability to come together and be in different places around the globe. We need to have places of exit, if necessary, from wherever the quarters may be, wherever the struggles may be. And we have begun to forge relationships on the continent, South America, etc., so that those types of interchanges and exchanges can happen. However, there's no plan we need to leave this place as a part of the current doctrine of the Board of Reverends. But we do need to facilitate our communications, our openness, our ability to trust one another in different places all over the globe. Because Israel is not confined anywhere, right?
So, all right.
Yes.
Amir, I forget.
Amir Sheikh Amir.
Okay, Sheikh Amir.
So briefly, I would say yes, we do have a plan. Again, I would liken it to the point that I made my first time speaking, which was this actual historic meeting that's taking place right now is a chain of events that occur from the explanation of the Civil War, the legislation that we just said we spoke on, to the brothers actually being able to colonize in Liberia in the first place. This was actually because of this legislation that I'm speaking to, that this meeting was possible, that they were able to colonize in Liberia and then migrate to the land of Israel. So the government of the United States of America provided these resources. It's not something that I'm making up. This is something that the brothers who descend from the individuals or people who actually built the community in Dimona, Israel, can attest to. That that the colonization was something that was passed through legislation. I think that if we look at other aspects or segments of American society, when you take away doctrine, when you take away any religious aspect, and you just look at it, you see people getting rights that you didn't see historically. Women being able to get rights, and then homosexuals being able to get rights, and different groups of people because they took part in the political process. We believe in the destiny of Israel. We believe in building up communities in Israel and abroad and other places on the planet. We believe in commerce. We believe in cultivating all of our people throughout the diaspora. And the reality is, there's 40 million so-called blacks that we will refer to as Israelites or whatever terminology you want to use, alone 40 million. And to conceive an idea that there would be no possibility that you're not going to deal with politics, in reality, the Europeans that placed those converts in the land of Israel right now are the same Europeans that are governing here in the West, are the same Europeans that are governing in Europe and are governing across the globe. To think that you're not going to have to deal with them, you're going to have to deal with them. The brothers had to join the military in Dimona, to join the Israeli military just to be able to inhabit that portion of the planet. So to get back to the question, yes, we would advocate utilizing the Constitution and bringing forth the law which they tried to hide and sue them in court, in the Supreme Court, to get our rights recognized.
So, okay. So I'm gonna take that answer right now. I'm gonna call you on that. Sure. Sheikh Babakasha, did you have any thing to add to that?
Shalom. Basically, you know, me, Sheikh, and Amir, we have the same perspective. We come from we do the same studies, and you know, when it goes back to the law that was established during the time of slavery in 1865, there was a law called the Compensation Emancipation Proclamation. We supposed to be compensated, and we supposed to be able to leave America and don't have to even pay.
So that is the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's one of the plans when we deal with it. It's called the Compensation Emancipation Proclamation, December 1st, 1862. And when we leave to leave America, if you want to go to Europe, you leave through New York. If you want to go to Africa, you leave through New Orleans, or so forth, Asia from San Francisco. This was established already, so we have to realize that we understand that this is this government is corrupted and is ran by wicked people. We're not going to deny that. In our perspective, the most perspective that we don't desire to amalgamate with the Prussian conditions in Europe. We desire to have peace with all nations. So we're not here to amalgamate them. We're here to return Christianity to church back to the Europeans because it's for their salvation, not for our salvation. But we have to understand that, if you want to travel to Israel, you have to have a passport. You know, you have to have a certain identification. There's certain laws that's established. But we saying that it was a laws established for us to navigate, that we're not subjected to certain things under this government that we are being subjected to now. So under the Compensation Emancipation Proclamation, we're supposed to be able to travel without having to pay. These are laws that we're supposed to be able to go to these different places and not have to pay. For there to be free transportation, things of that nature. We saying why not utilize these laws that's established already here for us to navigate and also go back to Israel.
All right, hallelujah. Thank you, Toda Rabbi, for that. Thank you very much. We got Elder Barak.
Okay.
Elder Barak from House of David.
Right. As far as the Exodus is concerned, again, we stand with what the scriptures teach us in Yahushua, that we're going to be redeemed and delivered out of America by the spirit of the Mashiach Yahushua. But we do agree that there has to be a remnant of our people before the Mashiach comes. There's going to be a remnant of our people in Jerusalem, in Israel. And the Most High blessed Benjamin and the Hebrew village, Almighty El, and the leadership there. They began that journey. If there is laws and statutes concerning this government stating the fact that us leaving America and they got laws in place, then I would agree that we should use those laws to begin that exodus, or begin that journey, or to begin that migration to our land. All right, Jerusalem is our land. Jerusalem is our inheritance. All right, we got to begin to claim who we are and claim our nationality and claim our identity. And I think we as leaders have been slacking on that. And so that's why the Most High is angry with us. The Most High is angry with the leadership. He's angry at us because we're not doing what we're really supposed to do and bring this nation together. And so that's why we commend the leadership at the Hebrew village very much. That's why at the Marshal our summits, we always speak up on and about the Hebrew village, Benjamin, and the leadership who made that journey into Jerusalem. So I would agree. The scriptures say this. I just want to read one scripture. It says, Jeremiah 3:15. It says, and I will give you, 3:14. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Most High, for I am married unto you, and I will take you one of a city and two of a family, and will bring you to Zion. Okay, so I would agree. So how are we going to get there? I don't see this leadership in America going to give us planes and boats just to go to Jerusalem. So if there is laws in place, we would agree that we should use those laws to begin that journey back into Israel, into Mount Zion, because Mount Zion is the key to our salvation. It's the key.
Okay. Last question. This question is, would you be willing to sit at this table and work with leadership in the Israelite communities, camps, entities, as we are doing it now, in order to strategize a plan for those that would want to go back into the land to go back into the land during 2019 and in the future? That is the question. I'd like to start again. I'm starting with you, but I love starting with you. I like the way you answer. So, Rabbi Baruch, not that I don't like everybody's answer, but I like starting.
The position of the International Israelite Board of Rabbis is this. This is probably going to be my longest answer. The community that's here in this hemisphere, this community began about 100 years ago. The first congregation that was founded by Rabbi Matthews was founded in the year 1919. So we are planning to celebrate 100 years of the return of the knowledge of the living God back to our community in this upcoming year. Sarmadiel is already aware of that in August. I said that to say that we have been working to build relationships and bridges with all communities. We too have representatives in South Africa and Ghana and been speaking with the governments. As a matter of fact, Nigeria just finally recognized the Hebrews as a real religion. You know, in Nigeria, you have to be recognized by the government. They'll allow you to practice whatever you want to practice, but in order to have anything, to have a school, to have this, the government has to recognize you. And they just did, and they just allotted us about 40 or 50 hectares of land over there. We are willing to work with our family to do anything that's going to be positive. So we've had the opportunity to go and speak to Sarmadiel and the Holy Council in Israel. We've been to the Lemon Cultural Association, the Nigerians, etc. The point is, we're here. We're here. This is not by accident. As you heard Rabbi Shlomo mention, I am the attaché to our chief rabbi. He is fully aware of this meeting and insisted that I be here, not that, you know, it's not a pulling teeth thing. He was like, Saul is coming, I want you to go to the meeting, love him. You know, this is what the mission is. This has been the mission for a long time. And so now we're seeing fruition come to the mission.
Just to keep real simple, absolutely. You know, we would definitely be willing to work and help bring together all of our people throughout the diaspora. We want to see Israel grow. We want to see Israel return back to the ways, the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. We want to see our babies speaking our native tongues. We want to see our children grow up in the land of Israel as well as throughout the world, because I know in Hebrew you have a term for the native Israelite and you have a term for a foreign Israelite who's living in another land. They still keep the law. So in reality, there are, I would assume, tens of millions of Israelites throughout the world. Mm-hmm. So we may not all be in that physical land at one time, but we could all sojourn home, make pilgrimage, if you will. And we need a community established there in order to do so. So us Moorish Americans, us Moorish Israelites, we are on board, 100%.
Sheikh, it's a grand Sheikh.
Shalom. Yeah, we're definitely willing to help out and work with our brothers. And like the elder said, Barak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Barak. If there are laws in place that can help us deal with this, you know, we utilize them. We're very strong in the lawful and legal aspect of things, how things are ran in certain laws. And, you know, it's just the reality that we can't escape certain laws that's established, but it's certain laws that was established for us to navigate, that we won't be subjected to certain things. And we are very familiar with those laws, and we can help with those laws to utilize to help our people get back to Israel. You know, we're definitely willing to work with our brothers and sisters pertaining to that. You know, we can't escape that it is a legal aspect that we have to deal with, and we're very familiar with those legal aspects.
We'll be using that.
Okay.
Elder Barak.
Well, again, the House of David, on behalf of the House of David, we are very willing to come together and meet as long as it takes for us to come together and bring this nation more on a unified basis. The scriptures say this in Isaiah 45:20, assemble yourselves and come together. Okay, assemble ourselves, ye that are escaped from the nations. So, like the brother said, the diaspora, we're scattered all over this earth. And the Spirit of the Most High has showed us, like Prince Martial said, we're still in Africa. It was one time it was taught that, like, we're not in Africa no more, but our people are all over the place. And we're finding out through our studies at the House of David that there's, over 3,000 some odd tribes in Africa that are Israelites. Okay, over 3,000, all right? So the Spirit showed us that. We had a brother that went to India and visited some Israelites, so-called Negroes in India. We have brothers in South America, brothers all over in Europe now. We're finding out our Israelite brothers in Iraq and Saudi Arabia, all over this earth, and the Far East, everywhere. So there is a lot of work to be done to gathering our people up. So we can't be slack. We have to really come together in the spirit of the Most High, Yahweh Shai, and begin to do that. That's why the scripture says, become evangelists. Go out and begin to teach our people and bring our people together. And so I think that the Hebrew Village started that, the House of David started that, and we have the advantage of YouTube and Twitter and social media all over the earth. We get calls from Africa, we get calls from Europe every day. And Mathafwa here is the head of the correspondence of the House of David. And he corresponds with Prince Martial just about every day. So we're pushing it out, and we're also pushing out the fact that coming together is very important. That's what the Marshall Allah Summits are about, to bring our people together. We knew we had differences. The brother can tell you, we knew we had differences, okay, in scriptures and everything, but we said we're going to lay that down, not totally lay it down, okay, but we have one common denominator that we're all Hebrew Israelites. All right, and we do believe in the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High. So with that common denominator, we said we could come together and form some kind of unified, assembling ourselves together. And so we started that. We're coming upon our 12th summit, and the Most High has blessed us. And now we are making alliances with the Hebrew Village, and now we're invited to this meeting. And so I'd like to say Thawada, and thank you for the brothers that are head of this meeting. We appreciate you inviting us to the House of David, and we look forward to coming to future meetings also. Okay?
So with that, this is going to close out the question and answer period for the leadership from me and the Kingdom of York. Now what I want to do is open up the audience. We have about 30 minutes left. But I want to use that for close. We got about 30 minutes left for questions and answers before we close. Are there any questions or comments from anyone in the audience? And we're going to keep those also. I want to keep those down to approximately 2 minutes as well.
2-minute question or 2-minute answer?
2-minute question. I want both done in the same period. So the question or comment, and then the 2 minutes on the answer.
All right, let me say this.
Okay.
Mr. Shalom.
Shalom.
Visit Israel, 7 times? And as Barak states, I'm in the truth from 97. I know my identity from 97, so 20 plus years. And one of the council members of House of David and the elder of the Mashara Yeshala, and as Barak's over the correspondent. And as Ahmadiyya was up there talking earlier, and he made the point, like, if it's not our generation, what generation will I make this stand? Because I know we have our children, our grandchildren, we see this younger generation out there now. And they teach us that children are the future, right? So we have a bleak future if we cannot make that stand now. You understand me? And I hope nothing don't offend nobody here, or no brothers here, but to come together we have to put things on the table in terms of we were brothers before doctrine. So no matter what, we should still be brother leaving here. Disagreement happen. I have disagreement with my wife now. I was texting her. I understand. I ain't scared of her, but we have disagreement. we still might sleep in the same bed tonight. So even if we have disagreement, you have to just be a proper way in terms of we can analyze it and move forward. And I'll talk to my brother one away in terms of the question I wanted to ask him.
Okay, that's fine.
But from us personal, we think it's the time to get the hell out of this place. And we're planning to do so. So we just want to say shalom, brothers and sisters.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions? Okay. With any else?
Yom Tov family, Yom Tov to the audience also. Just want to give all praise to the Most Holy One of Israel, our eternally anointed, our holy council, our brothers and sisters near and far, strive for righteousness and sake. And this is Yah in action right now. My question is this. It's a broad question, but please take it however you're going to take it. Humility. How deep does it play in us coming together as a family? Humility. Where does anybody see that playing an important role in this unification?
No. At this table, it takes total precedence. It's the only way this table could even have been invented or come to fruition, is that everyone at this table has shown, even today, humility. Why? Because each and every entity at this table, or the representatives of each and every entity at this table, had a different frame of view on how they answered each question. But each and every person at this, or leader at this table, respected the opinion or the thought process or the ideology of one another. That alone takes humility. The second thing that shows humility and the type of leadership that we have at this table is every brother answered, or every leader answered the question according to their opinion, not according to the other answers on the table. That was extremely important. So I would say that humility is going to be the key to this. Now, these were questions just to see, because we need to have the understanding of where each of us are at. But the reality is, the meetings moving forward must move into stages of planning as a unit. So what do I mean by that? What I'm saying is, as we begin to come to this table with the same humility that we came with tonight, we can create plans, bring them back to, each leader can bring it back to either their entity, or if they're a representative of a leadership, then they bring it back to that leadership, and we move forward just like that. So I'm saying that everyone, to me, showed humility. I'm going to end there. Is there any other leader or any leader here that would like to speak on that?
You said it well.
So that's about it.
I don't want to speak on that. I just want to mention and really kind of ask everyone here, because in going forward, we need the equivalent of a steering committee. Okay. And so we would need to have representatives from each of our varying perspectives on that committee to help to draft up what the guidelines, criteria, dates, so we can all, the scripture says, can two walk together except they agree? In Hebrew, it's a little bit different. It's actually, can two arrive at the same destination except they agree? And so if we're going forward, we want to get there together, so we would need a collective mind, functioning. And so one of the things that I immediately, that night I said when I was drafting up the outline for it, we need a steering committee. that's from a broad, perspective, so.
Sort of divide. Are there any other comments or questions? All right, if there's no other comments or questions, did anyone have any comments? Oh, no, Sar, could you do one more thing, Babakashai, for us? Could you please share the date, or close to the date, of when we want to have leadership and people that can come, but specifically leadership for sure. We want all leadership to go to the land of Israel on the time frame.
Sure. The official date is not set for the next Writers' Conference. The Writers' Conference for this year begins on the 26th of the 12th month, 26th of this month, and it extends to the 2nd of January, first month. And there are events that lead up to it. We can stretch it out, but it's traditionally in that season because it allowed for those who are tied to the plantation here, particularly if you were a student or if you were in academia. A lot of them did attend the Writers' Conference. It gave them that latitude and freedom. I felt it was important that we, when it came, I said, well, because it could have been other events during the course of 2019 that we could have chosen, or other seasons. I felt we should give ourselves a full year to properly plan it and put it out. So by the time that the Writers' Conference closes this year, we will know the dates and we will announce them at that time. And there's already an initial announcement that we prepared about the idea, and we will continue to build on that. So that's
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason that I wanted to bring that up is because in moving forward, when we talk about Exodus, for those that would like to do that, and those entities that would say, well, our whole congregation wants to move. The first stage of that, and we will discuss this, this is just something that we've thought about, we've discussed, but we will discuss it as a whole unit, is one of the African countries moving in first. Ghana, Kenya, South Africa are one of the countries that are actually amenable to us moving there, so we can have a ground to go into from Israel, into Israel as a whole unit. But we will discuss that.
Is the sole purpose, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Exodus, but I'm asking, is the sole purpose of this coming together purely about the Exodus, or is it a building block for us to work together, period?
It's the building block for us to work together, period. And Exodus is one of the items that are on the table.
That was my question, total.
And it's because of the season, it is a major prerogative. It's a major prerogative right now, but the goal is for all of us to work. That is and so it never has to end with just Exodus. I just want you to be clear with that.
No, I just need to know.
Okay. So are you in agreement?
No, I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement. I think logically, in looking again, following our cues, we'll all know when it's time to get out the house. You know what I'm saying? Maybe some of y'all got some different rooms that haven't been affected as badly as the front of the house or whatever. What I'm looking at. But no, we have to work together. I think that in doing that, that will generate another kind of comfort. That will generate. It will propel us where we need to be. And so yeah, it's to work together. It's a big globe out here. I immediately would not see a future in America because the laws, whatever we want to call it, karma, or, Jeremiah 51, 47, Revelation, come out of her. That's what governs our thinking. Hey, we still want to work together. we have to work together. I already know this is your Minister of Information. So my counterpart here. You know, so I'm already peeking, and I'm like, I can get a copy of that, you know. So we need to work together, and that's where we are. So I agree, absolutely. But we got to do it fast.
Let me just add this too. And for what y'all have in the Mona, that's like a foundation. So just like I'm from Jamaica. When they come there, they know where they're coming. There's a foundation there, there's headquarters. So just like when we go to the Mona, we have differences.
Yeah.
We never even start discussing them yet. But we've been there every time because that's a foundation. If we send anybody there on our behalf, we always tell them, go to that headquarters, go to the foundation. And that's an alliance we want to build with even, I don't know much about Moors. I didn't even know you have Moorish Israelite. You didn't know about that? You understand? We didn't even know that. You understand?
Yeah.
But the whole thing now is just building alliance, which is a stepping stone. So here, brother, use the word trust. This is trust, brother. It's our new moon tonight. We celebrate the new moon. That's why much brothers don't come. Because more brothers were supposed to come, but we have a feast day at our school tonight.
What a new saint coming out on this walk who understands about the coming out, the Exodus, and wants to visit the land, but doesn't know quite like who to get in touch with to make it to the land to communicate with the people. How would one get in contact with our brothers out there? Yeah, from I got a brother that lives out there in Dimona right now. His name is Moray Neriyahu Bendawi. So, like, what would new saints find for motivation as help to motivate them to get over there? Because, you know, some people hear about this and they're not just convinced through the scripture because they haven't did all their study, but they're kind of motivated because they see the propaganda that America is doing with the racism and the reformation of black and white going to war again. You know, that's a hot topic right now. So how would, for new saints, would be a good idea to get them, to get communicated with you fellas out there?
But you live in New York.
I live in New York, yes.
You would need to touch base with Brother Maganiel right here. He's our representative on the ground here. We don't have a lot of representation in the States anymore. We've I think I may have said that, but I spoke earlier today. Okay, but we're about getting up out of here. So that's your point of contact. But Moray Neriyahu is a prime example of one of the brothers who has a long history as an Israelite, teaching, and even goes back a long way with us. And it wasn't time for him. He'll tell you that. He said it wasn't time when he was asked to be involved with us at a much deeper level 20 plus years ago. And he opted not to, but now he's come full circle and he'll share his story openly. He's shared it openly on Facebook and other formats. And so, but he knows that he's being watched by all those other brethren, because he was one of the ones who was saying it ain't time. And what Dimona, whatever. But now he knows that, you know, those eyes are looking at him very closely, but he went on and he cut his ties and moved. And we said, and left, and we said for a long time that you can stay here for 40, 50 more years. But if you leave in 4 or 5 days, you will get more attention and more influence over others by leaving now than waiting for it. You reach more than you could talk for another 40, 50 years. You won't reach as many because they're really watching what you're doing. You know, we can talk. We can talk, but now talk is cheap, and so just the fact you asking that question, you know, I mean, that's the right question to ask, hey, because I would feel real alone right about now if I didn't have an infrastructure, a like-minded, you know, support system.
It's not like so many people you can go to and conversate about, you know, what we're talking about here today. It's a small group, a narrow group, you know, and that's why I'm asking that question today, because there ain't really nobody else to talk to, and it's like you're going on a whim, you know what I mean? And when you think realistically about it, and
we read everything and we go along everything. Watching your situation makes us a believer. Like, we out there, we doing things, we're surviving, we're living, you know? So that's what I just needed some clarification on.
We have to be practical about this too.
Right.
Because naturally there has to be a process by which we know who you are. And you learn us and we learn in you. Because, and this is New York City. Babylon means a place of confusion and chaos. And so we have to be very protective about what it is that we're doing. And so there may be, some criteria, and naturally, it's like I said, knock, and sometimes you knock, you might not get an answer when you want, but that's because the brother works, and he's working, and he's busy doing whatever else he's doing, and you might have to knock again, and you might email me, and it might get lost in my email file for a while, but I honestly want to respond and get back. And I know already that to do this properly, we're going to have to set up an administrative body that will tighten up the cracks that inquiries like yours would fall through. We want to prevent that. And that's the whole idea, again, of a steering committee or organization. I've already dedicated someone on my staff at home to do that, and that will be the conduit for inquiries that come up. And I already in my initial announcement said, don't expect, an immediate, answer, except to say we've acknowledged the receipt, because harvest is great, labors are few. But we've started the process, and again, put you in touch with them, and we can build on that. Okay. Build on that. Integrity is what we got to build on. You can't do anything without integrity. If you say yes, we count on that. If you say no, we count on, we know, okay, well, he ain't with us on that. But if you say yeah, we expect you to be there when it's time to throw down, and not running in the other direction.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Go ahead.
Yeah. In respect to the brother's question, when we first started going to Israel, Mount Zion, brother at the House of David. This is about 3 or 4 years ago, and there was 2 brothers at the first summit we had in Washington, D.C. 2 brothers, I think one is Dawada, and another one was Freeman. And they came to us at that summit and told us about Mount Zion, it was about Israel. As the first time we heard about the information concerning Mount Zion. So that piqued my interest and spirit in going over there. But from what I understand is that there are a lot of brothers that are leaving America right now and jumping and going over there. And they're going over there to live. But now when they get over there, they're floundering. There's no structure, there's nothing set up for them or nothing. So that's why the Spirit showed us we got to go to Dimona, because Dimona, like the brother Matathwa said, has the foundation. Been there for 50 years, all right? And then when we come through the customs and through the airport, they ask us, who you coming to see? Who are you? Why are you here? We say, we're going to see the brothers in Dimona. We're going to see Prince Amadiel for Passover, whatever. They say, oh, come on through. So the foundation's already set. So we don't want brothers to just all of a sudden hop from America going into Israel, but then once they get there, that's it. They have no place to go. I mean, our first hotel, when we got there, we were in the city of Tel Arad. And we're walking around Tel Arad, all of a sudden we see a brother come walking. I said, all of a sudden he says, Shalom, I'm from Washington, D.C. I live here in Tel Arad. Another brother I think we met one from Arizona somewhere. So you see brothers there, but there's no structure, there's no foundation. Brothers are just going there, just living there. And a lot of them don't have no job, they don't have anything, so there's no structure set up.
And never came to see us.
And they never came to see the brothers in Dimona. So that's important. That, like you said, getting in contact with the structure. So that's the Most High. The Most High had them set up there for 50 years already. Because why? Because in these last days, we're going to have to make some type of migration or exodus in the land. And so it's already set up through these brothers in Dimona, Prince Amadiel, Benny Amin, and it's already been set up. So we got to look at that in the spirit of the Most High. It's already set up. So it's time now.
Look, I hate to have to do this, but this portion we have to close out. Again, we're going to close the session of Akasha for this evening. We will send out information. We'll be reconvening again here in New York. But what I want you to know is we will be moving through. We're going to be sharing and asking the same questions to leadership throughout other cities and states around the world. Everyone here will have an opportunity to actually hear those answers, have that information, and it will be mailed or emailed to you, so everybody will know everyone's position on those questions. That's round one. Round two, we will put together a letter and send it out to everyone, and then we can start planning as a unit. And as a unit, we start planning when those types of, like I said, the steering committee and all that will be put together. So, Slick, I taught.
I have a question for Elder Barak. When is this summit meeting in Atlanta? What's the date for that?
The date we had proposed for the next one would be, it's normally a 4-day event, so the next one would be January 24th to the 27th. Most I will. We're trying to find a venue for it and everything right now, so we're kind of waiting on that. If we do have to extend, push the date out some, we can let brothers here know about it. But that was our initial date, January 24th to the 27th. And the day of the summit would be actually January 26th. It's normally on that Saturday. It's normally from Thursday to Sunday, and then that Saturday is really the day of the summit itself. So that would be the January 26th. Okay, so most I will. If we have to change the date, we'll push it up, then we'll let brothers know about it. But that's the date as of right now.
Make a note that we need to maybe check down in Atlanta to see if
Yeah.
our place is available for them.
Absolutely.
Come, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, we want to close out in the same manner that we opened. So the first close would be, we went last we went last. It was came. So you want to close now?
Yeah, she can mail close out.
Okay. And then Rabbi Bakasha, if you would say a prayer and close afterwards, and then we'll close out. And we appreciate everyone coming. Great.
All right, once again, we want to thank everybody for coming out to this very historic and pertinent meeting. We're going to close out with the various prayers from the various different brothers of our esteemed panel. Once again, we're going to close out with our Moorish American prayer. Those who are not comfortable participating, you may sit or stand in silent benediction. Those who are participating, please face the east, which is towards the charter. Feet on the 45-degree angle. 5 fingers on the right, on the left, 2 on the right. Allah. Allah. The Father of the universe. The Father of love. Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector. My guide. In my salvation. By night. And by day. Through his holy prophet. Drew Ali. Ameen.
Yevarecha Adonai v'yishmarecha, Yair Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom. May the Lord bless thee and keep thee. May he cause his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. May the Lord turn his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Amen.
Sir, I open, but I can defer to you. Shuvah Yahuwah, we revoke our faith Israel. Hallelujah. 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 Yo. 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 Yo.